He is the owner of MasterCheck Incorporated. MasterCheck is a full-service investigative firm which provides background checks, drug screenings, cybersecurity, and investigations. Vincent is a decorated war veteran with over 20 years of investigative experience. He is currently pursuing a master's degree in cybersecurity from the University of Memphis. He also holds degrees in cybersecurity and homeland security from Fisk University. Vincent holds 16 state private investigation licenses. I didn't even know there were that many. And is one of only 4 certified private eye trainers in the state of Tennessee. Vincent speaks frequently on the importance of surveillance in the insurance industry as the rise in fraudulent claims continue to drive up the cost of insurance. Thank you for what you do. Vincent has recently expanded MasterCheck presence to include investigating computer networks of small business and providing important information on safeguarding themselves from cyber attacks. Let's give it up for Vincent Dunn. A good guy to know.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As Lynn so eloquently said, I'm Vincent Demps. I'm the owner of MasterCheck. We're a full service investigative firm here in we've got an branch office here in Memphis, we've got an office in Nashville, and several offices throughout the United States. I've had the good fortune to be running the company for the last 20 years. Wanted to take some time to show you guys just a short infomercial that kind of touches the services that we provide at MasterCheck.
What would you like me to click on?
To the next slide.
Okay.
And then click on this.
Hello, welcome to MasterCheck, your one-stop shop full-service investigative firm. With our investigative resources, we've gained a reputation for being the best private investigation firm for any investigation job. We provide numerous services designed to help you find the answer you seek. With a combination of our highly skilled investigative experts and latest technology, we guarantee the best possible outcome for each case that we take on. Here's a highlight of a few specialized services we provide. Cybersecurity and network monitoring. We have the ability to provide you with the tools to monitor your network system 24/7 for potential red flags within your network with our NetCheck services. NetCheck offers your company the opportunity to have a cyber partner to work with you to protect against the daily threats of malware, corporate espionage, employer sabotage, and more. Surveillance and undercover investigations. Let us assist with your criminal, auto, and death investigations in locating evidence to determine whether an actual crime has taken place. We can assist with searches, interviews, evidence collection, as well as drone observation. Social media searches and monitoring. With the popularity of social media sites, it has been necessary to see what your current employees, new hires, and loved ones are doing on the various social media outlets. We can help you rest easy by providing social media monitoring for accounts that may be harmful to your business. MasterCheck tracks the activity that could be a potential risk to your organization and keeps you informed so you can protect your brand and your reputation by identifying potential risks. Contact us today to learn more about our services and schedule a free 30-minute consultation. Let us check out what's going on.
So that's just a brief, video we put together, just kind of highlighting some of the services that we do. Now, the company history, my dad actually was an investigator for 30 years. Like I said, I've been running the company for the last 20 plus odd years. The company originally started in Inglewood, New Jersey. I've been running it since 2001. And we're, of course, one of the largest veteran-owned, minority-owned businesses in the state of Tennessee. And one of the key things that we touch on, and that's one of the things I want to dive in a little bit later in my speech, is we do a lot of surveillance in connection with workers' compensation and liability claims. These are a few of our office locations that I touched on, like I said, Nashville, San Diego, Atlanta, Alabama. And this is our coverage area. Fortunately, based on our client network individuals that we work with, it requires us to continually add investigators to our network. So presently, we've probably got about, I want to say maybe 241 investigators within our investigative network. These, of course, are a few of the tools that the investigators use. This is always the part, it's a little bit earlier in my slide, that everybody enjoys. And I did bring a few of them that we do use. Got your GoPro camera, will be utilized to gather information. One of my favorites, of course, is this one. It allows us to be almost, we could probably literally be a block away using this one. This is probably one of my, it's one of the more larger ones that we have, but I enjoy that.
From a block away.
Well, it's extremely clear. You know, you can be, it's probably the best camera next to the one I'm going to show you next, which is the drone. These have by far the best cameras. This one, HD, high quality, crystal clear. It's basically like shooting a movie. These they haven't passed any laws so we can actually use these in investigations, but we use them a lot in the rural areas in terms of if you've got an individual that may live, you know, good distance from the road, we want to get a good overview of the residents, departing routes, arrival routes, so we can kind of set up our game plan to be, of course, you know, as to be as successful as possible. Here's a few of our clients. Like I said, we've had the probably hadn't said it, the good fortune of working in the Memphis area for about 15 years. So you'll see some individuals up there that we do quite a bit of business with, MLGW, FedEx. There's a few other individuals, you know, throughout the state of Tennessee that we do business with, and others located in other, of course, parts of the United States. Now, when it comes to investigations, you know, as you saw in the video, and as most of you all know, there's domestic, of course, auto, there's criminal, there's wellness investigations. But today I'm going to touch base on workplace surveillance, surveillance that is connected or associated with the workplace. And that would be your workers' compensation, liability, disability. And actually this one, it wasn't an undercover investigations. Now we kind of touch on it and call it workplace investigations. And you'll see later on why we say that. So first we'll cover workers' compensation surveillance. Here's just a brief video describing workers' compensation.
Oh no, the employee has gotten injured on the job. But there are some red flags regarding how the employee was injured, which raises some suspicion. During the employee's recovery process, you're having a difficult time getting him or her back to work. When you call, they're not at home, and they are missing scheduled medical appointments. This is when you need an investigator who can give that answer and lead. This is why we started MasterCheck. Many times, we need to know what individuals are doing without them knowing that they're being observed. Let us assist with discreetly documenting their full level of activity and then report this information back to you. We have manned and unmanned surveillance capabilities, as well as the ability to work undercover as an employee at your work site to obtain information in loss prevention matters. During our investigation, we will keep you informed of our progress, and once the investigation is complete, we will provide you a final report with any video documentation we obtain. Obtaining this information allows you to choose the claim, get the employee released back to work, or pursue the employee for filing a false claim. MasterCheck's investigators are prior military, some of the most experienced and educated investigators in the area. We have years of experience working both small and large-scale cases. Our world-class investigators understand what it takes to get the results you need and are trained to establish an investigative game plan and think out of the box. Reach out to us today to find out how we can help you with your difficult insurance claim. MasterCheck. Let us check out what's going on.
So in the workers' comp field, it's always good to, with that, cover the who, what, when, where, why. You ask, you know, when are investigators used? Typically, you know, when you have, you know, it's not used on every workers' compensation case, but, you know, if you have injuries and it's relatively minor and you appear eager to go back to work, UPS would be a good example of that. They have their drivers typically get injured during the summertime, and it appears that that's the best time that they like to take off. So they'll be injured for about 2 or 3 months, and it's ironically run simultaneously with their kids being out of school. But once it kicks back in, all of a sudden they're ready to return to work. And a lot of that, of course, is they're paid. They're probably one of the highest paid, and I think it's a level of convenience. So over the years, you'll notice, you know, in this industry, when people go out, why they go out, and how long they'll go out. We're normally brought in if there's a situation where you're injured and they have a difficulty with you returning to work. where there's a lot of debate about the doctors release you, physical therapists, whatever the case may be, and you have a hard time getting back to work. So for us, how do we go about obtaining that information? Not only do we do it in terms of the video documentation, we do background research. We also utilize social media profiles. A lot of times people are still putting, as common as social media is, they're putting a lot of information out there. And we had a guy in Maryland, he let us know he was going out, taking his boat out. He really helped us throughout the whole process in terms of putting his information out there, which of course requires us to not have a typical 9 to 5 day. Investigators' hours can be on the weekend, at night. And we also have the ability to film in public places. Only time it becomes a privacy issue is if you're within your home and if you've got the curtains open, we have the ability to film it. If you're on your property, it can be seen, we have the ability to film that. Now, if you're in a rural area, you got a no trespassing sign, things along those lines, we have to respect those avenues. You know, but once you leave off that property and you come, you know, into world to everybody else, then of course, you know, you're available from there. Of course, we'll document your activities. We tend to try to rotate the vehicles, you know, a lot of times, as well as change up our appearances. Typically, you may have a change of clothes when you work in this case because you never know where that guy's going. We had a, it's because we're in Memphis, I'm not going to say any names, but because we do a lot of surveillance sometimes on, you know, local police officers, fire department. So we had an individual that was, had worked in a particular field. And his thing was golf. And we actually spent, I think, 2 or 3 days just following. He had a torn rotating cuff. And he would go out every day and play 18 holes of golf. So you have to kind of be prepared because you never know where they're going, but that's where the social media comes in terms of us learning more about you. Other times when you talk about workers, investigators being used in workers' comp, like I said, in terms of fraud, you know, workers' comp fraud, which involves, you know, people lying, you know, for the benefit financially. A lot of times you have individuals who are, you know, they're not working where they are, but they'll go and start a whole nother business, you know, which in itself sometimes is really interesting. You know, I can think of a case I worked probably about 15 years ago. Well, 2 cases. About 15 years ago, there was one case, there was a guy that he was a contractor. And ironically, I think we worked this case, it was a 2-man. 5 o'clock in the morning, guy's garage goes up, his car comes out, and I'm thinking, you know, because we literally get on site. Typical day is 6 to 2. So we literally just got on site and we started this one early by happenstance. This guy drove all the way across Nashville to White Ridge Road, and he spent that whole morning laying sheetrock, you know, at a hotel and doing some other work, which was interesting to me because it was basically the field in which he worked. And it was crazy to me because I was thinking, well, if I'm already getting paid to stay at home, God only knows I wouldn't get up before 6 o'clock to do anything else. But typically, you know, you have those type of situations. I mean, we had a guy in East Tennessee. He actually worked for a tire place. And the interesting thing, about 8 or 9 o'clock that morning, he backs his car out, jacks his car up, and he rotates his own tires right there in the driveway. You know, it's like literally like a head scratcher. So typically there are times that it's, you know, it's interesting, you know, it's interesting, but it's also, you know, definitely a head scratcher. I will say this though, in terms of Tennessee, East Tennessee is probably more, you know, it may be, they may have a bunch of different things that they're doing. Ironically, West Tennessee, Memphis, they're way more bold. That guy will get work, he'll get injured at MLGW. He'll get a job at AutoZone. Let's say AutoZone, literally across the street, have no care in the world. Every morning he will be passing his employer where he's employed now, injured, going to another job. You know, so it's actually interesting when we do the social media and when we get these files. Yeah, just how and West Tennessee has always been like, you know, just that embrace. They will post it on social media. They will literally get a job, like I said, across the street, you know, and not be aware of, you know, the ramifications, you know, of this particular situation. So, and, you know, I covered that, you know, you have that employee, you know, one of our clients, of course, is FedEx. Mainly, I think they're individuals who are typically out of work, or your individuals who deliver the packages, your carriers that deliver the packages. A lot of that deals with, the heavy boxes, they submit the claim. Sometimes they have other jobs, they're working part-time, so they may have already been injured somewhere else. But it's just more convenient, of course, to do it at work because that employer is going to cover that cost. If you can, so sometimes we do what they refer to as medical canvases, which we will research your medical history. Of course, there are, you do have the HIPAA situation, but a lot of times when you take these jobs, or even when you go out injured, they will have you sign that authorization release, that medical authorization release. So we're able to obtain that information and research your medical history and see, maybe you had a trip to the ER maybe a week or two before that injury, and then they'll, for that in that same area or that same part of your body. And like I said before, a lot of times it comes down to that time away from work. I mean, we go out and individuals have other jobs. I mean, here's a guy, he had a whole lawn care business. And this actually, this case right here was pretty interesting because his clients were gas stations. So for my guys, this was probably one of the easiest cases to work because a lot of his gas stations were right off the exit. So my guys were actually right on the other side of the interstate, just pulled over on the side of the road and, filmed this guy the whole time. He was, weed eating, him and his son, cutting grass. Sometimes, like I said, with the UPS workers, you have individuals just want to spend time with their family. It's like their vacation, maybe they're out of vacation time. So you have various situations such as those. So you say, hey, so why should you care? You know what I'm saying? Why should I care if they take off work? One of the reasons why you should care is, and I think Lynn touched on it, and I think it's also in the video, it drives your premiums up. As you can see here, FBI estimates, cost of, insurance fraud, excluding of course health, is over $40 billion a year. And of that, workers' comp probably carves out about it says 6 to 7 billion, but it can be a little bit more. And how does that affect you? How does that break down for you? As these claims get higher and higher, your insurance premiums go up. So with that being, it can cost a family, as it says, 400 to 700 a year and increase premiums. So that's why it's important for us to go out and document these situations and work to keep that cost down. Because a lot of times you'll have coworkers that you may be knowledgeable about that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And like I said, most people don't think it affects them, but everything somewhere affects you, especially from a monetary standpoint. And also with that, you got a coworker, who's not going to work. So depending on where you work and how that situation goes, that's affecting your home life. So you may be working longer hours and not being, compensated as you feel you should, covering for that particular employee. Here are some of the direct, indirect costs, that workers cost of workers' comp claims. You've got your medical expenses, civil liability. Those are some of the direct costs. The property losses, some of the indirect, of course, loss of production for that company. A lot of times through decrease in morale. Like I said, you're having to work longer hours to make up for somebody else. And of course, you don't want to be there. You want to put in your 8 hours and go home. There's worker replacement, as well as the fines and the legal costs associated with it. So you ask yourself, now if you become that individual and you're the individual committing this workers' comp fraud, what happens? Now, it can affect you both ways. It can affect you as a business owner. I mean, there are business owners, and we've got the example there in Auburn, New York, where a guy, he actually was the business owner. He was sentenced to 1 to 3 years in jail for workers' compensation fraud. This was, of course, after the investigation, what they found was, he had received almost, $83,000 in benefits that he wasn't eligible for, and he wasn't providing necessary coverage for workers' compensation for his employees. Tennessee is a little bit different because I think it's based on, how many actual employees you have, whether or not you have to carry that coverage. Florida is somewhat similar along those lines, but even as an employer, it can affect you. Even here as an actual employee, in this particular case where it's considered a misdemeanor and it's punishable up to a year in jail, As well as if certain situations in certain states, it can be a felony, which can lead to 2 to 5 years in prison, and you may have to provide restitution to that employer in terms of what they've spent, managing your medical claim. California is probably one of the hardest because California is so different about everything they do from an employment standpoint. So many things that they do different from an employment standpoint. So the consequences are probably a lot harder in California. But you definitely can look at some jail time. You definitely can end up having to pay fines as well as pay back your employer. The other part of what we do, and this is something that falls into the workplace surveillance, we used to do a lot of undercover surveillance. Kellogg's is one. I mean, I can say it now because it's been a while since we did it. Kellogg's would hire us to come in and if they had, theft, things being stolen or taken within the company, if there was rumors of somebody selling drugs, whatever the case may be, hire that employee. We still do this for a lot of companies. That individual will go through regular training, just like everybody else, and work within that company. And sometimes they may be there 6, 7, 8 months, maybe there a whole year, just documenting activity and reporting that, of course, back to senior management when they have issues, within the company. What has happened recently since COVID, there's a new workplace. And since COVID, a lot more individuals are working from home. So, that's what with that now we have a new level, like I said, of what we call workplace surveillance. And that's basically a lot of times monitoring employees' activities. Individuals that work from home, individuals that work remotely, they will come to us, they'll hire us. We may place some agents within the system to kind of monitor what's going on. I mean, it opens you up to so many different levels of liability, so many different situations that can affect your business, that a lot more companies are leaning more to that. Like I said, because a lot more individuals are going to work home remotely. And then in a lot of situations, that supervisors may have access to your computer, especially if it's a company, company equipment, company equipment. So you ask yourself, legally, can they do this? When it comes to surveillance at work, you'd be surprised that your employer can legally, there's a lot of things that they can legally do. They can, install video cameras, they can read your postal mail, they can read your email. If you've got a company vehicle, they can put a GPS tracker on it. There are a lot of things that, that they can do as long as it's within protecting the business. It can't be outside of that, but as long as it's within protecting the scope of the business. Here's a great example. This is one of the things that we had a conversation with years ago about Kellogg. They wanted to put cameras in the locker room, and we had to explain to them that, legally you can't do that. You got people changing clothes, you got, so that's where, it's always good, and that's, to have that outside individual. And we make it a point to make sure that we stay on top of things from a legal perspective, because, as a third party vendor, you have a certain level of, liability. So you ask yourself, why are these employers, wanting to put these agents on and monitor what you're doing? Well, it opens them up to, so many different types of fraud. And a lot of times this comes back to training, people not being aware. Sometimes you may have a computer and you're sharing it with a teenager and several other individuals are utilizing that computer, and that, you have that cyber attack that happens, and it starts initially probably at your computer at home, remotely, which of course can, lead to the theft of data, malicious codes, viruses, website tampering. So these are one of the reasons why now, they come to us and they're asking us to kind of assist with these things as well, as more and more people are working from home. We started a branch called NetCheck, and NetCheck, this is what, we started a division called NetCheck. NetCheck, this is basically how we do our surveillance from that standpoint.
Your employees are on computers all day long. What if one day one of your employees is on the internet, they see something they like and click on it? Then, boom, the whole company's computer system gets shut down. Now your company operations stop indefinitely as you work to bring everything back online, and unknown to you, there's an intruder in your system stealing all your data or preparing you for a ransomware attack. But this could all have been avoided. MasterCheck's Cyber Division NetCheck is designed to assist small business with preparing you for a potential cyber attack. NetCheck has the ability to pen test your system for vulnerabilities, train your employees on the importance of being cyber aware, and establish a team to monitor your network. Our firm's Forensic Incident Response Management System allows us to provide you a cloud-based threat hunting and incident response platform that will consistently inspect and analyze your system for you. We provide a proactive approach for our clients with the ability to expose, isolate, and eliminate threats, risks, and vulnerabilities that your prevention tools can miss. Our team will sit down with your management team, pen test your system, and then establish a plan of action to secure your system from cyber attacks. During our process, we will also work with your human resources team to make sure you are compliant from a hiring and termination standpoint. Your management team, depending on your request, will receive daily or quarterly reports, which will inform you of the status of the devices connected to your network. In the end, you will have the complete plan to assist you with guarding against a potential cyber attack. Insurance companies will provide you cyber insurance, but they are also looking for you to do your due diligence to protect your most important asset, your business. Insurance is not a get out of jail free card. Call us today and let's check out what's going on.
So you say, why should you care? Like I said before. Now, for the companies, of course, this is major. Here are two situations. You got the city of Atlanta, cost them almost $2.6 million in emergency efforts when they were actually hit with a ransomware attack. To this day, we still don't know if they actually, in most situations, you have somebody who's roughly asking for a ransom, and in this one, they wanted $50,000 in Bitcoin. Typically, the word in our industry typically is not to pay. So we're not sure if the city of Atlanta paid them or not. And I think they ended up not paying it, but they still ended up wiping out the information, still ended up affecting, that particular business. And a lot of that in itself can affect you as an employee. You can end up losing your job, downside, whatever the case may be. As you can see, Atlanta had, another situation not too long ago with their procurement department. And that, of course, also cost them several millions of dollars. Not to include the bad publicity and everything else that goes into that, which long term can affect you. Now, in that situation as an employee, a lot of employers, the way it's designed now, employees aren't really being held too much accountable, but employers are really pushing back on that. Expecting employees to be more knowledgeable through training and situations like that, and wanting to hold them also responsible for that particular situation, because it puts them in a difficult spot where they're having to explain this to their client, what took place. It's costing them millions of dollars, like I said, which in a lot of situations can lead to, as I said, bottom line, it could cost you your job, as well as yourself some money, depending on how they handle it from an HR perspective, but they are pushing to hold employees even, more so accountable. That kind of concludes what I'm talking about in terms of workplace surveillance. Two of the fields that we specialize in. Just opening up the floor now for any questions you all may have.
Do you do fingerprint background check?
No, we don't. And now, if you need somebody, I can refer you to someone, but that is a field that is almost like a specialty now. It's almost like polygraph. It's so few of those individuals left, but there is someone I can refer to.
It's what's the most unusual disguise that you actually had to put on?
I haven't.
Take your
What I'm doing.
No, but-
Several places.
I haven't had, normally I guess people just don't pay me a lot of attention. I don't have to change that often, normally wherever I am, I just kind of blend in and, until it's time to get to court. And then they see the video and they say, I remember. I'll give you Checking the room first. There was a woman, she owns a restaurant and she was a claim, this is recent too. So I go in the restaurant and I order something to eat. And I go to the restaurant, I order something to eat and I'm sitting down, I'm eating, I'm videotaping. And I don't even know how it happened. Oh, so I go up to pay and her husband says, so what do you do? And I said, hey, I'm in the insurance business. He turns to the woman, as she's my subject, and says, hey, honey, he's in the insurance business. Come over and talk to him. So she comes over, she said, you know, so what do you do? I said, well, you know, hey, insurance quotes on auto. She said, we're thinking about getting some insurance on our, what that quote that guy gave me. So then she calls her son on FaceTime. So I'm videotaping all of this because I didn't bring the pin camera. So I'm videotaping all of this. So I'm talking to him, he's giving me the vehicles, he's giving me the license plate. He's confirming their address, because their address, we knew where the business was, we were unsure where they lived. He's confirming their address. So I end up, I throw out a couple of names. Fortunately, I was thinking about some people in the BNI group. So I throw out a couple of names, first names, but not the same last name. So I take all this information, I finish eating, you know, I get some more video, I leave out, you know, eventually they close the business, they go home, we follow whatever the case may be. But I end up having to turn all of that in. And I knew once her lawyer got that video, she would immediately say, she would know who I was. So I could never probably go in that restaurant. And it's still there. I pass it all the time on Germantown Road, but I could probably never go in that place again. So, you know, to your question, like I said, I've been fortunate to kind of blend in, but typically when the video hits court, people will say, I remember that day and I know exactly who that guy was.
My question, is it worth it? Why not just go to work?
That's always my thought, you know, but how people have explained it to me is they said, well, hey, they're getting two sources of income. And I'm like, that's great, but I wouldn't get up and go to work for the second, so I'd do something at home. One more question.
Oh, yesterday, just a comment, for the first time, it popped up on my Allstate screen and it says, if you are hacked and they get saved passwords, you're in big trouble. Now I'm paraphrasing, but they always say, do not save your passwords. Because it can affect the company.
Yeah, a password manager is always better to manage that information. One more.
This is just real quick, just lets people know if you ever hire a contractor out there, make sure before you hire them, they carry workers' comp and liability, because if they don't carry it and there's an injury on your company, it's on you're the employer. So yeah, so just kind of be out there, just be aware. All right.
All right, thank you.